Her mother wanted her to marry him, but her two closest friends were against her marrying him. Who did she listen to and what happened afterwards? We'll find out in today's story. Dear viewers, please subscribe to our channel and like our video so that we can keep bringing you more interesting stories in this channel. Olaedo, aren't you going to get married? Her mother's voice was full of worry as they sat in the living room. You are 30 already and you're not getting any younger. Don't you want children of your own? Olaedo sighed, already used to the constant nagging. She loved her mother dearly but wished she could understand that marriage wasn't the only goal in life. Her aunt, who had been quiet, joined in. Your mother is right, Olaedo. You are a beautiful woman, but time isn't on your side. If you don't get married soon, you might only attract men who aren't serious. Or worse, married men. You don't want that, do you? Olaedo rolled her eyes but kept silent. She knew her aunt was only trying to help, but the pressure was becoming too much. Olaedo, her mother continued, wiping the tears that had started to form in her eyes. I just want the best for you. I don't want you to get old without getting a husband and children. Is it too much to ask? The words hit Olaedo hard. Her mother's tears always weakened her resolve. Mama, please don't cry. It's not that I don't want to get married, Olaedo said, trying to comfort her mother. What if I haven't met the right person yet? Her aunt clicked her tongue and shook her head. If you haven't met the right person, it's because your standards are too high. You need to lower them. No man is perfect, you know. Olaedo is a tall, fair and stunningly beautiful woman. She had worked hard for everything she had and had always been the kind of woman who refused to depend on anyone for success, especially not a man. Growing up, she saw how her mother had struggled, depending on her father who didn't contribute much to the household. From a young age, Olaedo made a promise to herself that she would never rely on anyone financially. She put in the effort, studied hard, and climbed the corporate ladder when she got a job. By 28, she had built her own successful fashion business. She owned a luxury home in an upscale neighborhood, drove a nice car, and lived a comfortable life. While many of her friends were still struggling to make ends meet, she was financially secure. But even with all her success, she couldn't escape the societal pressure to marry. Her mother's constant reminders felt like a ticking clock, counting down her time. One evening, Olaedo sat at a popular cafe with her closest friends, Amaka and Kemi. The topic, as usual, was relationships. My mother won't stop reminding me about marriage, Olaedo said, sipping her drink. It's like she thinks that's the only thing that matters in life. Amaka, the bold one in the group, nodded knowingly. Typical Nigerian mothers, they don't care if you own $1 million business. If you are not married, it's like you've not achieved anything. Kemi, the softer spoken one, smiled. Your mom just wants what she thinks is best for you. But Ola, marriage is not the solution to everything. Besides, what about this John guy you've been seeing? He doesn't seem like a husband material. Olaedo frowned. John is fine. He's just going through a rough patch. He has dreams, you know. Dreams without action mean nothing, Amaka said, shaking her head. From what you've told us, he's always asking you for money, and he doesn't even have a stable job. That's a red flag. Kemi nodded. You are doing well for yourself, Ola. Don't let someone drag you down. John had seemed charming at first. They met through mutual friends at a party. At first, he seemed like the perfect man. He's funny, attentive, and sweet. He talks about starting his own business and shares ambitious plans to become a successful entrepreneur. He had a way with words that made Olaedo believe in his potential. But as the months passed, his actions showed that he wasn't as serious as he claimed to be. He was 35, yet he had no stable job. He lived in a small apartment that his older brother helped him pay for, and his so-called business ideas never led anywhere. Every time he came up with a new idea, he would ask Olaedo for money to invest, promising that this time it would work. But nothing ever did. Baby, trust me, this is it, John would say, his eye lighting up with excitement. All I need is 500,000 naira and I will make double that in no time. Reluctantly, Oledo would give him the money, hoping that this time he would be serious, but the money always disappeared and John would come back with a new excuse. Despite the growing list of failures, Oledo convinced herself that John just needed time. She tried to push aside the red flags, telling herself that all relationships required compromise. After 2 years of dating, John proposed to Oledo. It wasn't a grand gesture or an expensive ring because he couldn't afford one, but he got down on one knee and asked her to be his wife. Oledo hesitated, but the thought of her mother's words, "You are getting older," played over in her mind. She said yes, convincing herself that marriage would change things. Maybe she thought John would step up once they were married. Maybe he just needed a little more responsibility. Her friends weren't convinced. "Ola, this is a bad idea," Amaka had warned her. "You are setting yourself up for disappointment. You've been carrying him for 2 years. What makes you think that he will change?" But Oledo didn't listen. She went ahead with the wedding plans, financing the entire event herself. John contributed nothing. She paid for the venue, the dress, and even the honeymoon. The wedding day was beautiful, but beneath the surface, Oledo felt a growing unease. As she walked down the aisle, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was making a mistake, but it was too late now. Her mother was beaming with joy, and her friends, though skeptical, stood by her side. John looked happy, but there was something in his eyes that made Oledo feel uneasy. After the vows were exchanged, the reception was lively and everyone celebrated their union. But as the evening drew to a close, Oledo couldn't help but wonder if she had made the right decision. The first few weeks of marriage were calm. Oledo and John moved into her house, a large beautiful mansion in the city that she had worked hard to buy. John didn't contribute financially, but Oledo told herself that it didn't matter. She had more than enough to support them both, and she was happy to take care of her husband. But soon, the cracks began to show. John was still the same man he had always been, lazy, irresponsible, and always looking for the next big break. He would spend his days lounging around the house or going out with friends, while Oledo worked hard to keep her business running. It wasn't long before the arguments began. John had asked Oledo for another large sum of money to invest in a new business idea, a real estate venture that he was sure would be successful. "John, I have given you money for so many businesses already, and none of them have worked," Oledo said, her frustration boiling over. "I can't keep funding your ideas." John's eyes twisted in anger. "Is it because you give me money? Is that why you think you can talk to me like this? I'm your husband, Oledo. Show me some respect." "I'm not disrespecting you, John," Oledo replied, trying to keep calm. "But we need to be realistic. We can't keep throwing money away." But John wouldn't listen. He stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind him. The arguments between Oledo and John became more frequent. Every time she refused to give him money for one of his so-called investments, he would explode in anger, accusing her of using money to control him. "It's because you are the one paying for everything. That's why you think you can insult me," John would shout. Even when Oledo wasn't insulting him, he took her refusal to fund his latest schemes as a personal attack. Oledo tried to have honest conversations with him, explaining that their finances couldn't keep going in the same direction. But John refused to listen. He would turn the blame on her, making her feel guilty for wanting to protect the money she had worked so hard to earn. Her friends, especially Amaka, had warned her, "Ola, he's not going to change. You are practically raising him like a child." But Oledo wanted to believe that things could get better. She was determined to make the marriage work, even though deep down she knew John was draining her emotionally and financially. A few months into the marriage, Oledo discovered that she was pregnant. The news should have brought joy, but instead it filled her with a sense of dread. How could she raise a child with someone as irresponsible as John? When she told John about the pregnancy, he was excited at first, but his excitement quickly faded and he began asking for more money, this time to prepare for the baby's arrival. "Baby, we need to make sure we are financially secure before the baby comes," John said, leaning in close to her. "I've got a great business idea that will bring in a lot of money. All I need is a little more cash from you." Oledo felt a wave of frustration. Here they were about to bring a child into the world, and John was too focused on his get-rich-quick schemes. "I'm not giving you any more money, John," Oledo said firmly. "We need to save for the baby, not gamble on another one of your ideas." John's face darkened. "So you want us to live in poverty because you are too stingy to help your own husband?" Oledo couldn't believe what she was hearing. How could he accuse her of being stingy when she had been the one carrying the financial burden of their entire relationship? After that argument, John gave Oledo the silent treatment. For days, he barely spoke to her, coming home late and avoiding any conversation about the baby or their future. Oledo found herself growing more and more resentful. She was pregnant, working hard to keep her business afloat, and carrying all the weight of their household. Meanwhile, John acted as if he had no responsibilities. Whenever she tried to talk to him about their plans for the baby, he would brush her off, saying, "We'll figure it out later." Her friends noticed the strain she was under. One evening, as she sat with Amaka and Kemi, she poured out her frustrations. "I don't know how much more of this I can take," Oledo confessed. "I'm doing everything and John just doesn't seem to care." "You need to think about what's best for you and the baby," Kemi said gently. "If John is not stepping up now, do you really think he will change once the baby is here?" Amaka, as blunt as ever, added, "Ola, it's time to face reality. You married a man-child. It's up to you to decide how long you are willing to carry him." Just when Oledo thought things could get worse, she discovered that John was cheating on her. One night, while he was in the shower, his phone buzzed on the table. Oledo, out of curiosity, glanced from the screen and saw a message from a woman named Linda. "Can't wait to see you tonight," the message read, followed by a heart emoji. Oledo's heart sank. She had suspected that something was going on, but seeing the proof in front of her was devastating. How could John betray her like this, especially when she was pregnant and doing everything to keep their marriage afloat? When John came out of the shower, Oledo confronted him. "Who is Linda?" she asked, her voice trembling. John's face went pale. "She's just a friend," he stammered. "Don't lie to me, John," Oledo said, holding up his phone. "I saw the message. How could you do this to me?" Instead of apologizing, John became defensive. "Why are you snooping through my phone? Is this how little you trust me?" Oledo couldn't believe his response. "You are cheating on me, John, and you are trying to make this about me not trusting you?" The affair was the final straw for Oledo. She had put up with John's irresponsibility, his constant demands for money, and his lack of contribution to their marriage. But cheating while she was pregnant, that was too much for her to bear. For weeks, Oledo tried to figure out what to do. She didn't want her child to grow up in a broken home, but she also couldn't see a future where John would ever change. He had shown her over and over that he wasn't capable of being the husband or father that she needed. Her mother, unaware of the full extent of John's misbehavior, kept urging her to stay and make the marriage work. "Marriage isn't easy," her mother said one afternoon. "You have to be patient. Men make mistakes, but with time, they change." But Oledo wasn't so sure anymore. How long was she supposed to wait for John to change? How many more mistakes was she expected to forgive? One evening, after yet another argument with John over money, Oledo sat alone in her bedroom, staring at the walls of the house she had bought with her hard-earned money. It hit her then. She didn't have to stay in this situation. She was the one who had paid for everything. The house, the bills, the lifestyle they were living, it was all her doing. What if she just left? The idea grew in her mind, and over the next few days, she began quietly putting a plan into motion. She reached out to a real estate agent and listed the house up for sale, all without telling John. Oledo kept her decision to sell the house a secret from everyone, even her friends. She knew that if John found out, he would try to stop her, and she wasn't ready for another confrontation. As the weeks passed, Oledo began packing up her things, slowly moving items to a storage unit without John noticing. He was too wrapped up in his own world to realize that his wife was preparing to leave him. Finally, one evening, the real estate agent called with good news. The house had been sold, and the new owners would be moving in within a few days. Oledo felt a mixture of relief and nervousness. The time had come to make her move. The day came when Oledo put her plan into action. While John was out with his friends, she packed the last of her belongings and left a simple note on the kitchen table. "I'm leaving, don't try to find me." She handed the keys to the new owners and moved into a quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of the town, far from the chaos of her marriage. When John returned later that evening, he was shocked to find the house empty. His belongings had been thrown outside by the new owners, and he stood there speechless. John was left stranded, with no idea where Oledo had gone. He tried calling her, but her number had been disconnected. In a panic, he reached out to his friends, but they had already distanced themselves from him, knowing all too well about his irresponsibility. John had no choice but to move in with a distant cousin who wasn't exactly chilled to have him there. For the first time in years, John began to realize just how much he had relied on Oledo. Without her, he was lost. Meanwhile, Oledo began to rebuild her life. In her new home, she found peace and stability. She focused on her business and prepared for the arrival of her baby. Without the weight of John's constant demands, she felt lighter and freer. Her friends were supportive, especially Amaka, who had always known that John wasn't the right man for her. "Ola, I'm so proud of you," Amaka said one afternoon as they sat together in Oledo's new home. "You deserve so much better than what John was giving you." As the months passed, Oledo gave birth to a healthy baby boy. She named him Chukwuemeka, meaning God has done well. Holding her son in her arms, she knew she had made the right decision in leaving John. She had always been a strong woman, and now as a mother, she felt even stronger. Her business continued to thrive, and she was finally living the life she had always dreamed of: independent, successful, and free from the toxic influence of John. John, on the other hand, struggled to get back on his feet. His cousin eventually grew tired of him and asked him to leave. With nowhere to go and no money, John realized too late just how much he had lost. Oledo never looked back. She had moved on from the man who had once drained her spirit, and now she was focused on giving her son the best life possible. In the end, Oledo's journey had taught her a valuable lesson. Self-worth and peace of mind are priceless. Dear viewers, please like our video, subscribe to our channel so that we can keep bringing you more interesting stories. Thank you and see you in our next story.